We've got good news. We've got good news. There are, well, I guess breaking news is what it is. There are currently climate activists at CBS chanting, I don't even know what they're climate activists at CBS. I'm not really sure what they're angry about, but listen to the creativity of this message. Listen, hold on, let me turn on my There we go. We have climate activists at CBS, and they are chanting. Well, here, you know what? Let me just play it for you because I have to say it's fairly creative.
I've always wanted this to happen.
Paramount WeCBS.
Paramount WeCBS.
Paramount WeCBS.
Paramount WeCBS.
See, what they're saying is Paramount, which is the parent company of CBS, they go, we see BS, which is really, I don't know, has no one ever thought of that before? I don't know. I've never thought of that before. When we were watching that 60 Minutes interview, which was conveniently edited to make Kamala Harris look smarter than she actually is, did anyone come up with the we see BS chant? Did we have to leave it to these climate activists? It was pretty ingenious, by the way.
Paramount WeCBS.
They're also standing outside of CBS with like smoke bombs or something.
Rebel or die.
Oh, this isn't as exciting.
Rebel or die.
Yeah. Rebel or die. Uh-huh. Rebel or die.
Rebel or die.
That does.
Rebel or die. Rebel or die.
I don't know what
Rebel or die. Rebel or die.
There's like 6 people. And they're arm in arm. You know what? Here's the thing. They're of all various different shapes and sizes and creeds. There's like a long guy or a tall guy with a beard. There's like an old Karen looking woman. There's this woman in a shimmery pink ladies jacket. It's really, it's a bizarre group. I always wonder how these protesters all come together. How did these climate activists all get on the same page? Because like I said, they come from all different walks of life. What's going on? Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and I hope to God you're subscribed. If not, now would be the best time to do so. If you're not subscribed, you can do so right now. You can just click ding, subscribe, and become a part of the show every single day that we bring you. Well, the show, which we bring you every single day. And the latest news, the latest information, The View is back, by the way, which I forgot. The View goes on hiatus in August, just like Congress. The View and Congress have a lot in common, don't they? They have angry Karens. They don't make a lot of sense. They take a lot of time off. And it seems like most of them are just saying stuff to try to go viral or get some attention. Jasmine Crockett and Whoopi Goldberg are very similar. Sunny Hostin and that LaMonica McIver who threw her through. You know what? LaMonica McIver is probably more like Whoopi Goldberg, and I would say that Sunny Hostin is more like Jasmine Crockett. But all of them are back, and they sunk their teeth. Their veneers. They sunk their bright white veneers into this story about the Ukrainian woman who was killed on the subway in Charlotte by the lunatic, by DeCarlos Brown Jr. That's his name, by the way, DeCarlos Brown Jr. Her name is Irina Zarutska, and she was 23 years old, coming back from her job at the pizza place. You know the stuff. But if not, we'll bring you some of the latest. But Whoopi Goldberg is now claiming on national television that this is not DeCarlos Brown Jr.'s fault.
Look, a young woman is dead. Let's take that into consideration. And yes, a man who should have been behind bars was loose and out.
Okay, I'd like to point out, by the way, I don't think taking a woman is dead, she says. Let's take that into consideration. That's not something to take into consideration. That's it. That's this whole story. There's no let's consider the fact that a woman's dead. Let's not consider it. Let's talk about it because that is the fact. A woman is dead, murdered at the hand of this guy allegedly, DeCarlos Brown Jr. We saw the video footage. We saw him brandish the knife. We saw him stab her several times. We saw him walk off the train. We saw her start to bleed and cry. Nobody there helping her. Everybody ignoring her on that train, which is another whole side of the story, which we have to get into. But that's not something to take under consideration. That is the actual gosh darn point of this entire saga. It's the actual gosh darn point of the argument. It's the inflection point. A woman is dead! Exclamation point. That's not a side note that you take into consideration, unless, of course, you're Whoopi Goldberg from The View.
Look, a young woman is dead. Let's take that into consideration. And yes, a man who should have been behind bars was loose and out.
Well, he should have been.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
He was a schizophrenic man. His mother begged them to take him and put him away. So stop politicizing this. This is not political. Yeah. This has to do with how we take care of our sick Americans when they are in need.
Okay. So Whoopi Goldberg says, let's not politicize this just seconds before she politicizes it. Look, this man should have been behind bars. He was schizophrenic. His mama said, please take him away. And let's not politicize this. Let's talk about how we need to talk about how we take care of our sick citizens. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. If she wants to take care of this man, there's two options to do, or there's two courses of action. One is to put him away in some kind of facility where he's getting some kind of mental help. The other is to lock him up. Either way, he's not anywhere near this young Ukrainian girl with a knife on the subway in August. If you lock him up in prison, you throw away the key, he's nowhere near any of these victims. And it's not like this guy was innocent. It's not like this guy was some first-time offender. It's not like this guy was just schizophrenic and snapped. We've got 14 different cases where this guy was arrested. In fact, Fox News, where was it? Fox News had a graphic. Let me see where they were. I think it was Fox News had a graphic earlier today that showed all 14 of this guy's mugshots in a row, like they lined them up. It was 4 here, 4 here. It was all of the mugshots. And I'm trying to find where I have it here. Oh, here it is. It was all the mugshots lined up together. Here it is. It's, I think this is with, Todd Blanche talking about the federal charges. Listen.
This is a story any parent in America is horrified to watch. This 24-year-old girl gets on the train after her shift at the pizza place. She sought safety here in the United States of America. Give us your insight into the federal charges in this case. Why is this a federal case, and how do you plan to handle it?
Well, hi, Martha. It's great to be on today, even though it's a very sad day. And the reason why we're involved, and the FBI has been involved in the beginning, is because, well, for a number of reasons. Number one, this was a federal crime, so it took place on mass transit, and there's certainly an intent to kill by this man. And second, it's because we saw a city that failed. This city failed her. Like other very blue state cities in this country, there's these laws that exist that let people who should be in prison out. You look at the mugshots that you just showed on your screen, multiple mugshots. This man was committing felonies when the victim was 9 years old. And yet he was still out on our streets, riding the subway, committing this brutal act. And so it's not just the DOJ, it's not just the FBI. We also have the Department of Transportation involved as well, looking at what's going on in Charlotte and their system and why there's such a safety issue like there was in late August. And so this is a whole government approach, which you see President Trump doing in cities all over this country when local leaders won't do it themselves.
Yeah, look at that. Look at these mugshots. So, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This is, I mean, it's ridiculous. And kudos to Fox News for putting them all up there. It almost looks like they arrested a gang of guys who all come from the same family. It's the same guy over and over and over and over and over again, 14 times. And when you put those photos up, man, that definitely makes an impression. That really makes it pop how serious the issue is in Charlotte. And that's why it is now being handled by the federal government, because Donald Trump is not going to let the local jurisdiction with this magistrate judge, who, by the way, Congress sent a letter. It was from, who was it? It was from a bunch of them, but Tim Moore, Greg Murphy, Addison McDowell, Mark Harris, a whole bunch of them, they got together and they signed this letter and they sent it to Charlotte, and they said, we want this magistrate judge removed, because this guy never should have been out on, guy should never have been out roaming the streets after all of these convictions. Dear Chief Judge Wiggins, he writes, we are writing to urge that you initiate proceedings under North Carolina General Statute blah, 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 for the removal of Magistrate Teresa Stokes from the office. The statute provides for the removal of a magistrate for willful and persistent failure to perform the duties of the office or conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice that brings the judicial office into disrepute. Magistrate Stokes' actions in the case of DeCarlos Brown Jr. clearly meet both of these grounds for removal. In January 2025, Magistrate Stokes authorized the release of Brown based solely on his, quote, written promise to appear for a future court date. This decision was made despite Brown's extensive criminal history, which indicated at least 14 prior arrests for serious offenses such as possession of a firearm by a felon, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and physical assault of his sister. In 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for robbery with a dangerous firearm. The January charge, a Class 1 misdemeanor, arose after Brown became combative with police officers. Yet despite this history of violent and unstable behavior, Magistrate Stokes released Brown without requiring bond or imposing any meaningful conditions to safeguard the public. Fun fact, she's also not a lawyer, didn't go to law school, and never passed the bar exam, which in Charlotte, North Carolina, apparently makes you qualified to be a magistrate judge. I had no idea. But this is what we're learning now about the Democrat-run stronghold of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and what's going on down there that makes it totally unsafe for the citizens who are just trying to go back and forth from work, go back and forth from school. And that, again, is why the federal government is involved. And that is why Pam Bondi came out to say, look, we are taking over this joint. We're taking this case over because we don't trust the prosecutors in Charlotte.
Sean, we are going to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. We have taken the case because it's murder on mass transit. Progressive DAs cannot handle this case. The progressive DA in North Carolina in Charlotte, his name is Spencer Merriweather. He believed in letting him sign a written promise to appear. He participated in passing that, agreeing to let criminal defendants sign a written promise to appear in court. That's what he was allowed to do in July. Weeks later, he murdered Irina. Unbelievable that this happened. No longer. We have jurisdiction now. We will not let a progressive DA keep this case. Justice will be served. He'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He had 14 prior arrests. He had been to prison before for assaulting someone, robbery with a firearm. He had had 3 assaults, 1 on a woman, not charged, yet he made multiple 911 calls again, gets arrested, and was told to appear because he wrote a written promise to appear in court. Had he been held in custody, she would be alive today. This has zero to do with politics. I've been a prosecutor for a very, very long time. This is one of the most gruesome murders I've seen in my career. President Trump cares about it. I was with him today because he saw that video. He saw that horrific video of this young woman with her mother who fled to our country for protection from Ukraine. She worked at a pizza restaurant. She was coming home from work, still wearing her uniform, got on that bus, and never made it off the mass transit.
I mean, that is something, by the way, I didn't even realize that because it's mass transit, it becomes a federal offense. Murder on mass transit becomes a federal offense. And now the federal authorities, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, the U.S. attorney in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, can now take over and will take over the case. And Pam Bondi again saying, look, this is not politics. This is evil Democrats and evil Democrat policies. This is the Democrats passing their woke propaganda-like laws, trying to keep serial offenders on the street because they don't want to, I don't know, they don't want to look like they're racist. They don't want to look like they're actually doing their jobs. And whatever happened, to this guy repeatedly over and over again. The fact that he was released shows a breakdown in the system. And President Donald Trump is involving his entire Department of Justice. President Donald Trump himself actually yesterday in the Oval Office recorded a statement about Irina Zarutska and this entire episode because the media, as Caroline Levitt pointed out, and pretty much everybody else, has been ignoring it. And President Trump wanted to let everybody know this is a problem with Democrat cities all over the country, and he's not going to stand for it much longer.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists, and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it. This is the picture of it. And this is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl that never had problems in life, with a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead.
That was President Donald Trump saying, look, this is something that is going to affect everybody in blue cities and blue states. This is something that's going to affect everybody if we don't get rid of these Democrat policies. And he's not saying that it's political. He's saying they're bad policies. And he's saying the Democrats for years, and we've watched it, defund the police. This is what happens when you openly call for the defunding of the police and you have political elected representatives supporting it. When you have folks in the mayor's office, when you have folks on the city council walking hand in hand with Black Lives Matter protesters saying defund the police, when you have these people ripping funds away from police forces in places like New York and Portland, when you allow people in Seattle to just take over 6 city blocks one summer and call it the autonomous zone. When you allow that kind of thing, there's going to be repercussions. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but years down the road. And now we're starting to see them. We're starting to see what happens when woke enters society. It's not woke goes broke. It's not Cracker Barrel. It's not Bud Light. This is woke kills people. DEI kills people. These are dangerous policies by dangerous people. These are evil policies that are deadly to anybody. This guy didn't kill her because of her political bias. He killed her because he was crazy. He was a criminal. She was white. And now the system needs to be changed. And Donald Trump says the system will be changed. Joy Behar from The View says, by the way, Donald Trump is actually to blame for all of this.
But you know what, Whoopi? I have to say.
Let me just say,
finish.
and so if y'all could stop cutting funding
A good
for
one.
places.
But that's why it is political.
How about that?
That is exactly why it is a political situation, because in the first 40 days of the Trump administration, this one, they terminated 128 grants from the National Institute of Mental Health. In May, they cut $1 billion in federal grants for mental health services. And
$1 billion?
Yes. And then they talk about, mentally ill people are with the guns and mentally ill people are killing, blah, blah, blah. But then they cut the services. So it is political.
It's not actually, okay, they did cut the services for the mentally unstable, but you know what they didn't cut? They didn't cut funding for police. They didn't cut funding for prisons. They didn't cut funding for law and order. They didn't cut funding for ICE. They cut funding for programs that were not working. What this guy did not, he didn't need mental health. He needed a cell. He needed a nice, sturdy cell somewhere far away from innocent people, and he didn't get one. And that had nothing to do with funding. They didn't release him 14 times because they didn't have the funding. They released him 14 times because they didn't have any friggin' common sense. They believed that if they let him go on his own recognizance, or if he signed a piece of paper saying he promised to appear in court, that he would. And they, lacking the common sense that they did, they lacking the chutzpah or the cojones to stand up to the woke folk, to stand up to the DEI, the angry DEI warriors in society, said, look, you know what? We don't believe you. We don't care if you're black. We don't care if you're schizophrenic. You're a career criminal. and you've lied before, you've attacked police, you attacked your sister, you've broken tons of laws. We've got 18. I mean, we have a whole wall full of your mugshots. We don't believe you. We're going to throw you in prison for the rest of your life. They didn't do that. And there's plenty of funding for prisons. Probably there'll be more. Before too long. That's what's been going on. I think it was Benny Johnson had this. I saw this clip on X. This is DeCarlos Brown Jr. speaking from jail about what he did to Irina Zarutska.
You said something in your body did what?
Nah, the material, put it like this, the material used my body to stab the lady.
And so she just got stabbed.
Yeah. You know that's not me. I'm talking about just for no reason. But since they did that, now they got to investigate the material my body is exposed to. Since they want to do all that, now they got to investigate.
It's funny because she's from the Ukraine. She's from Russia, and you know they got a war. They had a war going on against the United States. So I'm just trying to understand, out of all people, why her?
It ain't. I don't have nothing. They just lashed out on her. That's what happened. They lashed out on her. Whoever was working the material, they lashed out on her.
Okay, so I guess he's claiming
you
now.
Said something in your body.
He's claiming now there's something in his body, probably put there by the government or somebody, that caused him to act out against her. The material. Whoever put the material in her body, the material acted. It wasn't me. It was the material. He's claiming he's being controlled by somebody else. And then this interviewer says, inaccurately says, she's from Ukraine, she's from Russia. They're two different countries. And they're at war with the United States of America. Also not true. But that's okay. We understand what she was trying to do. He's basically setting himself up for, I don't know, some kind of insanity plea. He's basically saying, no, I've been implanted. The old, oh no, they put something in my body. That wasn't me. They're controlling me. You remember Barack Obama said he wished he could control Joe Biden from his basement, but just by talking into an earpiece. That's what they're doing to me. They put something into my body. They put something in my brain. And now what happens is when they talk to me, I just do what they say. And they were the ones that stabbed her. It wasn't me. That was from an interview apparently with him from DeCarlos Brown Jr., who allegedly is the one behind all of this. There was another clip I wanted to share from, hold on, I got the wrong day here. There it is. There was another clip I wanted to share. This is from Russ Ferguson. Russ Ferguson is the U.S. attorney in Charlotte, and he's now, again, working alongside the state because there's federal charges. So they have a federal U.S. attorney in Charlotte working with the state now to bring federal charges against this guy, what's his name? DeCarlos Brown Jr. And he's saying, look, I'm from Charlotte. I remember all of this, and this is clearly a symptom of a much deeper issue.
As a native of Charlotte, I'm so sad to say that our city has gotten to this place. I was born here. I grew up here. I remember when the light rail was built. I remember the development it spurred. I remember the excitement. And to think now that you can't even feel comfortable riding that train hits me deep. The light rail brought this city access to jobs, access to education. People could take the train to college. It really put Charlotte on the map. And this incident has really, really injured that. Now, DeCarlos Brown Jr., who we allege stabbed Irina Zarutska, is in state custody on first-degree murder charges. But I'm here today to announce that we're going to supplement those state charges with federal charges. These federal charges will go alongside the murder case in state court. And we hope that they will ensure justice for Irina, for her family, and for the whole Charlotte community. The charge we are bringing is in Title 18, which is the criminal code. It's Section 1992A7, which is the law that Congress passed really for this situation. It is an act of violence on a mass transportation system. It is a law that is there because acts like this affect the American way. It affects our daily life. It is random acts on a train that are the thoroughbred and how we get through our cities to work, to our places of education, to our families. It is our way of American life. Crime makes people stop taking that light rail. They give up those opportunities, and we are here to be sure that we can save our city and bring those opportunities back. The maximum penalty for this federal crime is life in prison without parole or the death penalty.
By the way, Donald Trump's rooting for the death penalty. He posted that. He posted that on Truth Social. This is an interesting point, and this is something that I want you to pay attention to, because here's Donald Trump and his legal team are very smart individuals. They know exactly what they're doing. And what Donald Trump is doing here is he's using this federal statute. He's using this federal law that says murder on mass transit is a federal crime. Congress says so because mass transit, it doesn't just affect the city that it's in, but it affects our entire American way of government, our entire economy. People that are shuttling in and out of these economic centers for work or for school or for play or for whatever, it has a profound effect on the country as a whole. So mass transit is something where we cannot allow terrorism of any kind, either domestic or international. Mass transit is crucial and must be protected. And if the cities and the states can't protect people on mass transit, which clearly they can't, the federal government will step in and say, we're now going to do what you've been unable to do, and that is protect Americans on the train in Charlotte. And Charlotte is not even the biggest, bluest city with mass transit. And what Donald Trump is now doing is saying, look, here's a way that we can intercede in law enforcement because we need to keep mass transit safe. Well, where else do they have mass transit? New York City, Chicago, where there's currently an ICE surge operation Midway Blitz, Washington, D.C., which is now one of the safest cities, Boston, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. All blue cities, all run by blue state Democrats, all with ridiculous woke policies, all with these ridiculous defund the police movements, all with these cashless bail systems. I think maybe all, I don't know if Boston has, I'm pretty sure they do. All of them with cashless bail systems so that you don't have to worry about spending the night in prison if you're a criminal, which doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. And so that's what Donald Trump is now saying. He's saying, look, if we can go into Charlotte and police the trains and put these people away and bring up federal crimes, guess what? We're going to start doing it. We're going to start doing it in other places. I mean, you could, if the next time somebody pushes somebody in front of a railroad track or a subway track in New York City, you best believe that there's going to be a U.S. attorney knocking on the door saying, hi, I'm here to take over this case. The next time somebody acts up or there's any kind of crime in Chicago where Donald Trump is already prepared to bring in the National Guard, he's already got the ICE surge going to try to protect them. J.B. Pritzker's freaking out. He's flipping out. He's pooping his sumo diaper because Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump said he would do, which is protect the lives of American citizens anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. With all of that going on, Donald Trump saying, oh, look, here's this mass transit thing. This gives the federal government the authority to go in and protect Americans in any of these blue cities because they all have mass transit systems. It's really, really wild. It's really, and you know what? And it's kind of genius too. Donald Trump, he does a lot of things. I was just watching this Joe Rogan clip where they were talking about the transgender gun ban, and that came up a couple times with this transgender gun ban. But one of the things that's interesting is by Donald Trump not saying he's going to ban guns for transgender people, but just suggesting we're looking into it. Somebody suggested it. We're looking into it. That's all he said. We're looking into it. Now, all of a sudden, he's put the left on the defense. And Joe Rogan said he's got Democrats defending gun rights, which is amazing. It's something that clearly only Donald Trump could do is get Democrats to defend gun rights and say, you can't take guns away from trans people. Democrats have been wanting to take guns away from everybody for years. And now they're battling Donald Trump for trans gun rights. It's really genius. Donald Trump did something else genius yesterday. He went out in D.C. Donald Trump, he loves the grand gesture, if you will. He loves the publicity stunt. He went to McDonald's when Kamala Harris said she worked there and there was no record of her ever working there. So he said, I'll go cook fries at McDonald's, and boom, he worked the drive-thru and won the election. When Joe Biden said we're all garbage, the only garbage he sees are Donald Trump supporters, then Donald Trump said, great, let me put on one of those orange safety vests and hop up in a garbage truck and drive to a rally in Wisconsin. Let me go do that. And over and over again, Donald Trump did these things, these big grand gestures. Well, now Donald Trump says DC is so safe. DC is so safe. How safe is it? It's so safe that the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of War all went out to dinner.
Here we are. We're standing right in the middle of D.C., which, as you know, about over the last year was a very unsafe place. Over the last 20 years, actually, it was very unsafe. And now it's got virtually no crime. We call it crime-free. We're going to be announcing another city that we're going to very shortly. We're working it out. The governor of a certain state would love us to be there, and the mayor of a certain city in that same state would love us to be there. We'll announce it probably tomorrow, and it's going to be something where we'll do like we did here. But this city, here I am standing out in the middle of the street. I wouldn't have done this 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I certainly wouldn't have done it a year ago.
I mean, Donald Trump would have done it because he has plenty of secrets. Donald Trump can stand out in the street because when you have, and when you look at this clip, here, let me just play this. Let me just show it to you once again. You've got Donald Trump with, where is it? Here it is.
Here we are.
You got Donald Trump. You've got J.D. Vance. You have Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So right there, you have the three top-ranking members in the executive branch. It's the president, the vice president, then the Secretary of State. You've got the Secretary of War, formerly SecDef. I made this mistake this morning during the 47 Daily podcast, which, by the way, if you don't listen to the 47 Daily podcast, you should really be listening to the 47 Daily podcast. But I called him SecDef. And then I remembered, oh, wait, he's not SecDef anymore because they changed the Defense Department to the War Department. So now instead of SecDef, he's SecWar. I don't know if SecDef sounded had a little bit, but he's SecWar. You got Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, and SecWar Hegseth. It's got a nice ring to it. But Donald Trump, look, they go to this restaurant. Oh, incidentally, the restaurant was called Joe's.
Thank you. Thank you. The restaurants now are booming. People are going out to dinner where they didn't go out for years. And it's a safe city. And I just want to thank the National Guard. We loved working with the mayor and the chief. And we all work together, and the outcome is really spectacular. We have a capital that's very, very safe right now.
Yeah, and Donald Trump said, and then there's this other city, this other state where the governor and the mayor are like, come here. Where could that be? Is it New York? Maybe I don't think it's New York because Kathy Hochul would never, ever call Donald Trump and ask for his help. I think that, you know what? I think that Eric Adams might. I don't think that Kathy Hochul ever would. Maybe she would. Who knows? I know it's not Chicago because they're screaming and yelling about ICE officers there. Is it California? LA? Probably not. Gavin Newsom's running for president. The last thing he wants to do is call up the current president and say, I need your help, because that would show that he's not capable of running his own state. And if you can't run your own state, a state like California, how the HE double hockey sticks are you going to run the United States of America? You're not, Newsom, and never forget that. But Donald Trump goes out to dinner. Fun fact, when he walked in the restaurant, immediately he got a huge round of applause, an ovation. People were cheering. And then somehow these pro-Palestinian protesters rolled in, and Donald Trump just stared him down and did what he does best, which is, just troll him. Here he is. Hold on. Let me play it again so you can hear the cheering. Thank you, everybody. He walks in, the cheering. By the way, he and J.D. Vance are wearing the exact same outfit again.
Great job. Can you imagine? We did it in 12 days, but now it's almost a month. We have a safe city.
We got a safe city.
You can enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You won't be mugged going home, okay?
You won't be mugged going home. And then he meets like the owner or somebody there. He's like, give me a card. But they're wearing the same suit, the same tie.
Where's your family?
Everything. So Marco Rubio's in the back looking upset, like he's probably upset about the Israel situation. Yeah. And Donald Trump's looking at these protesters going, you're not going to get mugged on the way home. Don't drink too much. He's just having a blast because he's out doing what he said everyone in D.C. can now do comfortably, and that is enjoy a night out on the town. Go out to dinner. You can now go out to dinner and not have to worry about a thing, thanks to the Trump administration, thanks to the surge of troops in the National Guard, and thanks to Donald Trump making D.C. safe again. This is Donald Trump enjoying a night out at Joe's. Again, the irony of that, I think is kind of funny. Incidentally, there is new information about Joseph Robinette Biden and his second in command, Kamala Harris. Her new book is coming out, and she is throwing him under the bus. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you are looking to truly enjoy the new golden age, and if you want the new golden age to last as long as possible, then quick quiz. there is one investment that is better than anything. I hear all these Bitcoin bros talking about Bitcoin and crypto. And I know that Dogecoin is about to skyrocket to the moon and all that other stuff. And I see that the economy is booming, again, because of Donald Trump's investments in America and all the other countries that are investing in America. And I know that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is through there, and Apple just announced a new iPhone, so their stock's going up. But there is one investment that is better long-term than any other and has gone up 25% since Donald Trump returned to office. I, of course, am talking about gold. Gold, a precious metal, which is a safe haven for your money. And a place like Augusta Precious Metals is the best place, in my humble opinion, for you to invest your gold. Augusta Precious Metals, they help their customers diversify their gold investments. They help their customers build their gold investments. And if you have $100,000 in a savings account or an IRA, if you have $100,000 in some kind of retirement fund, if you've got it in a 401k, you need to go to getmarksgold.com immediately. Getmarksgold.com and request your free guide from Augusta Precious Metals, because Augusta Precious Metals can do a lot more with that $100,000 than your bank can, than the S&P 500 can, than the Bitcoin can. And they are accredited. They are highly ranked by the Better Business Bureau. They have incredible reviews. Go to getmarksgold.com. There's a link to that website in the description of this video, so it's conveniently located. You can just click on it, tell them you heard about it from me, Mark Kaye, and make that valuable investment for your future in a true safe haven like gold, silver, and other precious metals. All right, so Kamala Harris has her new book out. 107 days. I think it's, how many days was it? 107, 106. I think it was 107 days. 107 days, talks about her campaign. And now we're starting to get excerpts from the book that she or somebody she paid wrote for her. And who better to comment on those excerpts than me? I mean, why not? It's my show. I got a frantic call from Newsmax this morning saying, quick, can you join us to slam Kamala Harris's new book? And I said, of course I can.
Welcome back to Wake Up America. So new this morning, the first excerpts of former Vice President Kamala Harris's new book, and she's not holding back one bit, taking aim squarely at her former boss, former President Joe Biden.
Yeah, The Atlantic revealing some stunning excerpts from her book titled 107 Days, where she calls ex-President Joe Biden's decision to run for re-election, quote, reckless.
Mark, here's another shocking quote where the former vice president writes, but at 81, Joe got tired. I don't believe it was incapacity. If I believed that, I would have said so. As loyal as I am to President Biden, I am more loyal to my country.
Oh, please.
That doesn't seem very loyal to Joe Biden right now, does it, with all these other excerpts?
You know, the thing about this book is I'm shocked that people were able to read the excerpts over all the pop-ups. But Kamala Harris was never loyal to Joe Biden. Her career started by her calling him a racist for his position on busing in the very first Democrat debate when they were on stage together. The only time she was loyal to him was on The View when she said, you know what, I wouldn't do anything differently than Joe Biden did, which was one of the things Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party jumped on and buried her campaign. But the important part that Kamala Harris doesn't realize, or maybe now does realize, and that's why she's written this book, is that she was never a serious candidate. She was a prank that Joe and Jill Biden pulled on the Democrat Party. Joe Biden was furious that Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer stabbed him in the back, forced him to step down, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you clowns the one person I know you don't want representing this party, Kamala Harris. And that's why he came out with his endorsement of her before Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and anyone else could even get out in front of it. She was never supposed to be the candidate. She was retribution because Joe Biden was angry at the Democrat Party.
This is a remarkable fall from a former president, regardless of party. I mean, we are talking now, not even 9 months he's been out of office, and people are basically just writing him off as a has-been already. Yeah. And you have the former vice president throwing basically your former president under the bus.
Well, I mean, you look at, it's not only that, there's a lot of money to be made. I mean, there are CNN hosts who turned on Joe Biden and made millions with their memoirs, Jake Tapper. So Kamala Harris realizes, I think she's not going to be governor of California. I think she's pretty sure she doesn't have a shot at all of being president. What's she going to do? her only recourse now is to write books and go out on a speaking tour. And nobody wants to hear anybody go out there and say, Joe Biden was great. Joe Biden made amazing decisions. They want to hear the dirty details. They want to hear what was going on behind the scenes. So if she's going to have any chance of any career whatsoever in the public spotlight, she's got to give the people what they want, which is the dirty laundry from inside the White House.
Man, that guy knows his stuff, doesn't he? I just you know what? I always wonder, should I play myself on my own show? But then you know what happens is I get comments from people that say, I love when you play clips of yourself on the show. And okay, great. That's an old, by the way, that's an old Rush Limbaugh move. I know Rush Limbaugh used to, whenever Rush Limbaugh would say something that turned out to be true, he'd play a clip of himself on the show. And I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I thought, why would you not quote yourself? Why would you not remind people that you were right before anyone else was? Why would you not showcase how valued your opinion is that other mainstream American, or not mainstream, but other conservative news networks in the United States of America, common sense news networks, seek out your opinion as an expert? I think, probably, it's adding to my credibility. Why interview somebody else when I could just interview myself? Maybe that's what I do next. Maybe I interview myself. Coming up on the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic podcast, my interview with Mark Kaye. I mean, no one else will come on. No one else will come on this show. So I might as well make the most of it. But look, Kamala Harris, we have here the article, by the way, that they referenced from The Atlantic. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, The Atlantic. We all remember The Atlantic. We all remember, the Atlantic editor who was involved in the Telegram conversation with our good buddy Mike Walls, who no one's heard from since, and Sec War, Pete Hegseth, among others. Here it is. It's called The Constant Battle. The first excerpt from 107 Days. Editor's note, this is funny. The biggest surprise in Kamala Harris's forthcoming account of her rough and ready, is that what we're calling it? Hang on, I got to fix my camera here a little bit because it's there we go. There we go. I was getting cut off. Of her rough and ready, where was it? The biggest surprise in Kamala Harris's forthcoming account of her rough and ready, intense, and absurdly condensed campaign for president, 107 days, may be that it is filled with surprises. I read it last week, expecting lawyerly calibration and discretion. This careful Harris is present, but so too is another Harris. Blunt, knowing, fervent, occasionally profane, slyly funny. As you will see in the following excerpt and throughout this newsworthy book, she no longer seems particularly interested in holding back. 107 Days begins with the events of July 21st, 2024, the very late day on which Joe Biden told his vice president and the world that he would exit the presidential race. The chapter below details the events of July 24th, as well as some of Harris's acute observations about the absurdity and unprecedented nature of that political moment. That's Jeffrey Goldberg, by the way, the same guy. 107 Days will be released by Simon & Schuster, blah, blah, nobody cares. Here we go. The first stop on the day's calendar had been planned months earlier. At a meeting in the Oval Office discussing her work uplifting Black executives and entrepreneurs, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant had invited me to address the annual gathering, the grand boule of her sorority, Zeta Phi Beta. Now, I was in Indianapolis looking out over a convention center packed with 6,000 powerful women in dark blue dresses and white jackets. I'm a member of a different sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, a.k.a. AKA for life. Sorry. The first Black women's Greek letter organization founded at Howard University in 1908. But these women are my sisters too. We're all part of the Divine Nine, the Greek organizations founded when segregation was law in the South and standard practice in the North. W.E.B. Du Bois and Thurgood Marshall were early members of the first Black fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, founded at Cornell University in 1906. The Divine Nine had been an engine of uplift for generations of Black college. All right, let me get to the good part. Here we go. Throughout my career, I've maintained that people in positions of power must be required to ask for themselves, who am I not hearing from? Then make it their business to seek those folks out. I came to the White House knowing that the people in that building needed to hear from a wider range of voices. As vice president, I'd been given... Okay, this is really boring. Where's the good part? I thought it was... Here it is. Here we go. On this day, there was a new energy in the room as I walked onto the stage. A black woman was slated to be the Democratic nominee for president. It was us, and everyone there understood what it meant, that this would be a journey of both joy and pain. I was in a room full of people with whom, because of our shared experience, certain words did not need to be said. When I am president, a roar erupted that drowned out the rest of that sentence. I think maybe they just didn't want to hear her talk. Anyway, there were better excerpts. It's a really, really long... Oh, here we go. This is the good part. During all those months of growing panic, I should have told Joe to consider not... Oh, here we go. There's a part where she says that... Hold on, I can find it. There's a part where she says it was reckless. Here it is. Here we go. It's Joe and Jill's... This is where they start talking about Joe Biden running for president again. And she goes, it's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision. Many people want to spit up a narrative of some big conspiracy at the White House to hide Joe Biden's infirmity. Here is the truth as I lived it. Joe Biden was a smart guy with long experience and deep conviction, able to discharge the duties of president. On his worst day, he was more deeply knowledgeable, more capable of exercising judgment, and far more compassionate than Donald Trump on his best. But at 81, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. I don't think it's any surprise that the debate debacle happened right after two back-to-back trips to Europe and a flight to the West Coast for a Hollywood fundraiser. I don't believe it was incapacity. If I believed that, I would have said so. As loyal as I am to President Biden, I'm more loyal to my country. And so she goes on and on and on. And then she starts to complain about the staff basically disparaging her and belittling her and putting her in a position where she was not able to thrive. She complains about being the border czar. Here we go. The VP should take on irregular migration. From March 2021, my assignment was to attack the root causes of the misery that was driving people from their homes and villages in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Because I'd prosecuted cartels and human traffickers from the Northern Triangle. When Republicans mischaracterized my role as border czar, no one in the White House comms team helped me to effectively push back and explain what I had really been tasked to do, not to highlight any of the progress I had achieved. I won commitments of $5.2 billion in new investments by private companies for the region. I had already seen almost $1 billion of that money deployed. I held numerous bilateral meetings, blah, 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 blah. She went on and on and on and said, instead, I shouldered the blame for the porous border, an issue that had proved intractable for Democratic and Republican administrations alike. Even the breathtaking cruelty of Trump's family separation policy hadn't deterred the desperate. It was an issue that absolutely demanded bipartisan cooperation and at impossibly partisan, most uncooperative time. No one around the president advocated. Give her something she can win with. So she's basically out there fetching about everybody, man. She's out there complaining about Donald Trump. She's out there complaining about Joe Biden. She's out there complaining about the Democrat Party. She's out there saying it was a reckless decision. And here's the thing. Clearly, I don't think she's running for anything else. We know she's not running for governor of California because she already came out and said, I'm not running for governor of California. But I think this book is clear that she's not running for president either. Why? Because she is throwing the entire Democrat Party under the bus. She's looking at everybody in the party saying, you know, we all just said it's Joe and Jill's decision. It's Joe and Jill's decision, like a mantra. We just blindly went in there. Everybody's guilty. She's basically saying everybody is guilty of turning the other cheek. Everybody is guilty of letting Joe Biden make a decision that he should never have been making on his own. Everybody is guilty for losing to Donald Trump. And if you're complaining about the Democrat Party, if you're saying everybody's guilty, if you're saying everybody's to blame, then guess what? Nobody's going to come to your aid. If you're saying that Joe Biden's White House and the rest of the Democrat Party threw me under the bus and didn't do anything to help me out when I was floundering on the one issue I was given to cover, which was the border, The border, which I couldn't even be troubled enough to go visit. I mean, I've never been to Europe either. That was her response to Lester Holt when he asked her if she'd been to the border. I've never been to Europe either. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Well, you're not the Europe czar. She's complaining about her entire party. You can't complain about your entire party. You can't blame your entire party for the downfall of the nation. You can't say we all are to blame and nobody helped me and write a book like this and then turn around and say, by the way, I need your support. I'm running again. She's still one of the top people on the list of Democrats. And I know being a top Democrat, that's nothing to write home about. That's a dubious honor. Well, I'm one of the top Democrats in this country. I'm one of the Democrats most favored to run for president. Being a most favored Democrat, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Because that just means you're going to be a bigger failure, a bigger loser than anyone else before you. So it's really kind of interesting here what's been going on, and it's really kind of telling too what's happening with Kamala Harris and this entire scenario with this book. But this book does come out, like we said, in a few weeks, and there's more to it. I'm not going to read any more because I just don't want to. I'm kind of over the whole Kamala Harris thing. Plus, there's other stuff to talk about. There's this thing going on in Poland. Now, I don't know if you heard about this, but in Poland, there was this. It was really interesting what happened. And people are trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure out now, okay, what is happening in Poland? What is going on in Poland? Is Poland under attack by Russia, or is Poland caught in the crossfire? What's going on? There's some kind of violation of Polish airspace. There were drones. Let me pull up the story here from, I guess we'll do Politico. We might as well. Russian drones unite fractured Poland's leadership for now. Poland's normal political warfare fell quiet after warplanes shot down Russian drones. There's nothing like the danger of war from a historic enemy to paper over political divides. That's what's happening in Poland. As usually, squabbling politicians struck an unusual note of unity. This is not the story that I want. Here we go. We'll go to Fox News. Russia fires drones into Poland days after Trump meeting with the NATO ally. Now, you may remember that Poland came to the White House and their Polish leader was here with Donald Trump. And then Trump issues ominous message on social media following Russian drone attack in Poland. Here we go. Just 1 week after President Trump met with Polish President Karol Nawrocki at the White House, Russia fired some 24 drones into the NATO nation on Wednesday. The assault prompted NATO allies to military response to the apparent Russian attack, and for the first time brought Poland to the closest it has been to open conflict since World War II. The move also prompted Trump to issue an ominous message on social media in which he said, "What's with Russia violating Poland's airspace with drones? Here we go." The Kremlin on Wednesday claimed there is no evidence that the drones were of Russian origin after Andrei Ordash, Moscow's chief diplomat in Poland, who was summoned by Warsaw, told Russian state-owned media outlet RIA, "We see the accusations as groundless. We know one thing, these drones were flying from the direction of Ukraine," he added, according to a translation by DW Report. Ordash's comments contradicted assessments by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who said that at least 2 Russian drones that entered Polish territory during the night used Belarusian airspace. In total, at least 7 Russian drones were moving along the Ukraine-Belarus border and in the western regions of Ukraine, approaching targets in Ukraine and apparently Poland. Neither NATO, nor the White House, nor Poland's defense ministry immediately responded to questions by Fox News Digital on whether drones that entered Polish airspace did so intentionally. Though a White House official told Fox News Digital that President Trump and the White House are tracking the reports out of Poland, and there are plans for President Trump to speak with the Polish president today. So Russia launches these drones through Belarus. Some of them hit in Warsaw. Some of them are shot down by these Polish planes. And now Russia's claiming we didn't do it. They came from Ukraine. Now what's happening is Poland wants Article 5 of NATO they're having meetings about initiating Article 5, which would then begin basically World War III. Poland downs Russian drones that violated its airspace during strikes on Ukraine. There are some people saying that this is not an acceptable attack or that there's no evidence yet to initiate Article 5, but that could also be something that was legitimately done by the Russians. Vladimir Putin knows exactly what he's doing. He's trolling people. He's pushing people to the brink. He's trying to see who's going to do what. And it'll be interesting to see how Donald Trump now responds. Remember, he's not sending any weapons or military equipment or anything to Ukraine. What he is doing is he's sending it to NATO, selling it to NATO, and then NATO's dispensing it around the country as they see fit, or around the continent as they see fit. And if they see that there's an escalation by Russia in Poland, they could give Poland some of these weapons. They could give Ukraine some of these weapons. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said in a statement on Wednesday that a full assessment of the incident is ongoing. What is clear is that the violation last night is not an isolated incident, he added. Tusk called the incident a large-scale provocation and said the situation is serious, and no one doubts that we must prepare for various scenarios. Rutte said NATO leaders held a meeting this morning after Poland enacted Article 4, which triggers urgent talks whenever, in the opinion of any of them, the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any of the parties is threatened. Rutte confirmed that the overnight drone attack not only scrambled Polish warplanes, but also Dutch F-35s, Italian airborne warning and control systems, NATO multi-role tanker transport systems for air-to-air refueling, and German Patriots, which were activated and successfully ensured the defense of NATO territory. So NATO doing its job, protecting itself. We have yet to be seen what exactly happened and who exactly is to blame and what Donald Trump's response will be. So far, we know Donald Trump has said, here we go. That could really mean, and when you're Donald Trump, that could really mean literally anything. Listen, don't forget to subscribe to this station, Don't forget to subscribe to this network wherever you happen to be watching. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, set those notifications. If you're watching us on Rumble, like thousands of other people do every single day, great. We appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening to our podcast, fantastic. Make sure you're downloading the podcast every single day, because there's more to come. There's more information. There's more lies coming from the left. There's more The View's back. So, there's going to be a lot more stuff that we're going to be listening to out of their mouths. And there is now constantly infighting on the left. You've got climate activists going after CBS. You've got people in Chicago going after ICE. You've got Democrats who are now standing up for gun rights. It's really an incredible time to be alive. It's an incredible time to be living in such a political atmosphere. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's taken his entire cabinet out to dinner in D.C. because it's safe. And that D.C. was the first, not the last city that Donald Trump is going to clean up. Charlotte, Chicago, New York. I'll be eager to see just how amazing this entire country is when Donald Trump gets done with it. Listen, thanks again. Don't forget to subscribe. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, keep listening, keep fighting, keep learning. We will stick together through thick and thin. And together we will fight, and win. Because it's up to us, you, me, and patriots all over the globe to save the Republic.